Our guests today are Judge David Keenan and FBI Special Agent Robert Sproull, both from the United States, who just took part in a summer school with law students from Serbia. Thank you both for being here with us.
Hvala.
Judge Keenan, I would first like to ask you about your opinion in general about the state of judiciary in Serbia and the legal system. What are your impressions, having in mind that you probably had a previous knowledge about it?
Sure. Well, I'm very impressed, and we spent all of last week at this criminal justice summer school with Serbian law students and Serbian judges and attorneys, and I had a chance to participate in panels with the judges, and that was great. And I know that this year, or in recent months, they've passed a number of changes to the Constitution to increase transparency in the judiciary. And I think that's really important when it comes to the rule of law in Serbia and making your judiciary more robust.
And as we spoke before, there are differences between your and our legal system, very big differences, right? And how did you combine these two to explain to your listeners? I assume it was about criminal law mostly, right? How did you explain those differences and what they could learn from you coming from a different legal system?
Well, of course, there are some things that our systems have in common. We talk just a lot about ethics and about professionalism, and those are the kinds of things that are features in any good legal system, whether it's in Serbia or in the United States. And we highlighted some of the differences and why they're important. In Serbia, about a decade ago, you went to an adversarial system, but it's not completely adversarial. It's not entirely like the United States. And there are some big differences between the work that judges do in Serbia and the work that judges do in the United States.
Legal experts, judges, attorneys, whoever here believe that a 12-member common people jury could be tougher on defendants, especially when it comes to the gravest crimes. And they believe that it should be, those crimes should be put into the hands of the professionals, like a jury panel, as we have in the continental law. What do you think about that? What is your experience?
Well, my only practical experience is with the United States system, where at the beginning of every trial, we pull 12 random people off of the street and we make them jurors. And my experience with that system, and I've had over 100 trials, is that it works very well. I often think to myself at the end of a trial, would I have given the same ruling as the jury? And only once would I maybe have given a different ruling. So I think that the system works quite well.
Okay, and the last question for you is, what the students here were most interested in regarding your job as a judge?
Well, they were very interested in my background because, Juliana, as you and I have discussed, I was a criminal defendant in the court where I am a judge now, and members of my family were defendants in my court. And when I shared that with them, they were so surprised. And then at the break, students would come to me and they would say, I have had problems in my past, or members of my family have had problems in their past. And so they were just, I think, shocked to hear a judge be so honest and so open. And I think that's very powerful when somebody in a position of power shares those stories.
Thank you. Now I go to you.
Sure.
Former special agent. You investigated some of the toughest crimes during your career, including bank robberies, kidnappings, and all that stuff. And I think narcotics distribution as well,
That's
right?
correct, yes.
Okay, and what do you see some similarities or differences, if any, between how people here do the job you did in the States and how you did it?
Well, I think the first, as a special agent, whether it was with the FBI or other federal agencies that I worked with, a little bit of what we do as an investigator is similar to, from what I understand, I learned a lot about Serbia law enforcement this week, but your prosecutors who are there at crime scenes. So we have some overlap there. And then we work with our prosecutors to build the case. So I think the job is very similar when you're investigating wherever you are in the world, right? You have to collect evidence and account for it. You have to speak to people and have people speak with you. And so what I said to a lot of the students is, you know, while everybody thinks they watch TV about American police dramas, that it's all the shooting and running and chasing, that was a very small portion of the, even though I was working those crimes, most of the time I was talking with somebody. And one of the most important things to
So
be
less talking than shooting, right?
Yeah, no, and really to get information, to get help, to help a victim. It's about, you have to be able to communicate with people. And so I felt that that was sort of the message that I would deliver. And I would say that I think it's, I would imagine everywhere I've seen, whether it's in the United States or outside of the United States, it's about law enforcement being able to communicate with the citizens, victims, and with the subjects of the crime, and to be able to talk.
And you also work together with police.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that's a very good question. Yes, so in the United States, I would work on task forces. So we'd have police officers, probation officers, our state police, and others, the other police organizations within the United States. And we work in task forces quite a bit. So there is a lot of crossover in criminal investigations.
What were your suggestions, advices, or whatever to the future, maybe special agent in this country?
Right. A good question. So, you know, and Judge Keenan had spoke about it. Something that I tried to talk about in mine was ethics, right? So if you're an investigator, a police officer, a special agent, a judge, a defense attorney, or a prosecutor, ethics are very important for the integrity of the justice system. So we received training at the FBI Academy in ethics, formal ethics training. And I was happy to hear that all the Serbian law students were just brought up ethics, and they discussed that in law school. So I think that's an important thing for anybody who's involved in law enforcement.
And what were the most important questions or most interesting questions that you've got from the students during the summer school?
Well, it's always funny, and I hate to say this, but because of so much American television, everybody wants to know if you've been shot or you shot somebody. So I am very thankful in my career, I am retired now, that the answer is no to both.
No to both?
Yes.
So they were mostly interested in whether you were like bam bam?
Well, you know, I mean, I think if you meet, you know, an American law enforcement person, I get the same questions in my country if I speak to school kids or to friends and peers. They all, because of television and the dramas, they
the
believe
perception of the
perception
FBI.
is this is what happens all the time. And it does happen, unfortunately, occasionally, but it's not the consistent activity of a police
Were they
officer.
surprised with your answer?
Yes, because of the television, yeah.
Okay, thank you both very much for speaking to Novi Magazin.
Thank
It's
you
been a
for having
pleasure,
us.
and I've had a great experience here in Serbia.